Hendrickson showed up to the Bengals facility today, but that doesn't mean he's necessarily happy. He's been seeking a new contract after he led the league in sacks last year with 17.5. Yesterday, he said he hadn't spoken to the team since the draft, and he has not gotten what was promised to him. Today, he talked more about the situation. Here he is.
A little bit transpired between me and Zach. We've tried to keep it as least amount personal as possible. But at some point in this process, it becomes personal. Being sent 30 days before mandatory camp, or however many days it is, that if I don't show up, I will be fined, alludes to the fact that something won't get done in that time frame.
Okay, then, our NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck joins us now on SportsCenter. And so, Tim, we just obviously heard from Trey Hendrickson. React to what you heard from him, and also the two sides still don't have a deal done. What do you make of it all?
Well, he mentioned that it's personal, that yes, this is a business, but, at some point it becomes personal, and it feels like he's taking this personally, like he's hurt, that he, feels betrayed a little bit. This guy with 35 sacks the last 2 seasons. Like, you can make the argument at times over the last 2 years, he's been as good as any pass rusher in the entire NFL. And so looking at, going into the last year of his deal, due to make about, $15 million in base salary, he probably should be making over $30 million a year when you look at what the market is for guys that are elite edge rushers. He's just 30 years old. And so, I think when he looks at all of that, he's probably saying, well, Cincinnati, wait a minute. Like, what have I not done to at least be able to have this conversation to figure if we can work something out, rather than you guys just saying, nope, we're not going to get anything done. And by the way, we're going to fine you if you don't show up for the mandatory minicamp. And so I understand how, Trey Hendrickson could feel hurt and betrayed, especially with the type of, member he's been for that organization since joining it after coming over from the Saints.
What's wild about this situation, too, is that the Bengals, their offense wasn't the problem last year. It was their defense. This is the one guy who felt like he was consistent on that side of the ball, and now you have him disgruntled, and it feels like it's a little bit of a mess. Let's talk about what we know is going to be in front of us, though, in terms of the NFL season. First Monday Night Football matchup was announced this morning. The defending Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're going to take on the Green Bay Packers in Week 10. Green Bay, filed a proposal to ban the Eagles' signature tush-push, we remember, back in February. And so, do you think, in your opinion, Tim, does this add a little more juice to that game?
I actually think that it does. I really do. I think there's an element of people thinking that, listen, this is a physical play in football. And look, this is why you lift all the weights. This is why you do this. In short yardage situations, you can beat the man across from you. And so I think there are people in Philadelphia like, hey, man, stop it. This is a personnel advantage, not something that doesn't belong in football. So, yeah, I actually do think, whatever anyone says prior, that week prior leading into the game, don't believe it. Because I promise you, internally, it will be a factor of, listen, they didn't think they could stop it. They wanted it out of the game. And so I do think it is something that will be brought up at least in each locker room.
There's got to be a Vegas line for that. Every fourth down, tush push. Every fourth down, tush push. The full Monday Night Football slate will be revealed.
Right? Send a message.
Exactly. Along with the entire NFL schedule Wednesday night on ESPN2. Tim Hasselbeck, thank you.
We have your post-NFL draft power rankings from pre-Ozempic Pete Prisco in the upper left.
They changed it, and now we're back.
What is going on? What did Pete do to you that you brought back that photo from 3 years ago where he's carrying around an extra 65 pounds? The Cincinnati Bengals are 12th on that list, by the way. Let's get into the Bengals, shall we? Because they've got a little situation brewing. Because they paid the offense. They paid Chase and Higgins a combined $276 million in extensions. Chase now the highest paid wide receiver by over $5 million a year. Higgins just off this board at around $29 million a year. And we thought, if they did that, then what's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson? Well, he's not happy with the way contract negotiations are going. He told reporters today that he is not going to play under his current deal, which pays him a little over $16 million a year. He said that the negotiations have stalled and things have gotten a little personal. Just think of that. He's making $16 million a year. That's not even close to the top 10 for a guy that led the NFL in sacks last season with 17.5. He was a first-team All-Pro. Our John Breach has been a lifelong fan of the Cincinnati Bengals. His dad used to kick for them, so they are very near and dear to your heart, John. We had a Cincinnati reporter on earlier in the show who said he thinks this is going to end in a trade. How do you see things going, and how do you feel as a Bengals guy right now?
Well, first of all, I can't believe this is happening. This is keeping up with the Kardashians level of drama. When you have your star defensive player show up to a voluntary practice in street clothes just so he can hold a press conference to complain about the team. I mean, that's a new level of drama even for Cincinnati, and this is a team that has produced plenty of drama, whether it was Jamar Chase and T. Higgins deals, but they did get those deals done. And I do think that they're obviously, these two sides are at an impasse. The Bengals don't want to pay Trey Hendrickson what he's worth. Hendrickson, we saw those contracts that at the top of the pass rushing market. There are 4 guys who are making more than twice the money that Trey Hendrickson's going to make in 2025. So if you're the Bengals, you know you have to get him up there. And it doesn't sound like Hendrickson wants to take a short-term deal. He feels like that would be kicking the can down the road and put him in the same situation he is now. So that's another part of this that's slowing things down. He doesn't want to sign a 1 or 2 year deal. He's over 30, so I understand why the Bengals want to do that. So a trade is certainly possible, but you are the Bengals. You did not have a good defense. You cannot trade away your best defensive player. I do think they eventually get something done here, but man, it might be a month or 2 before that happens.
If they don't get things done, if they do need to trade him, if he does need to leave Cincinnati, what would be his #1 landing spot?
#1 spot, I think, would be the Washington Commanders. If I am Dan Quinn and the Commanders, I am calling up the Bengals and giving them whatever they want. You have a star quarterback in Jayden Daniels who is under his rookie contract for 2 more seasons. So you have money to play with. You want to go all in on winning a Super Bowl. Quinn is a defensive-minded coach. So bringing in Hendrickson would give them really a star pass rusher that they don't really have right now. And if you look at the Commanders' schedule in 2025, they face Patrick Mahomes. They face Jalen Hurts twice. They face a lot of good quarterbacks. So that pass rush would certainly help. And they do have the cap space to do it. They probably have to finagle a little bit, but with almost $23 million in cap space, it's something they could do. So I think the Commanders will be the top spot, Chris.
They were 1 win away from the Super Bowl last season. A team that was 1 win away from the Super Bowl the season prior is your second best landing spot. Why are you going with the Lions?
Well, you look at the Lions' schedule. You look at the quarterbacks they face. Let me read this list real quick. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott. I mean, the Lions have a brutal quarterback schedule, so you need someone who can get off after the quarterback. We know they have Aiden Hutchinson, but we saw how bad that pass rush was last season after Hutchinson got injured. He only played in 5 games in 2024. He still led the team in sacks, even though we have played those 5 games with 7.5 sacks. So if you're the Lions, you bring in Hendrickson. He gives you a little bit of security in case Hutchinson isn't 100% to start the season. And if he is 100% to start the season, well, now you have 2 of the top pass rushers in the NFL, and you can get after any quarterback. So if I'm the Lions, I'm certainly calling in the Lions. Like the Commanders, have a lot of cap space. The Lions have over $40 million, so they could afford Hendrickson.
And with your 3rd best landing spot, you're going to stay in that same division with the Chicago Bears, John.
Let's do the Bears. Well, let me just explain real quick. I do not think the Bengals will be crazy enough to trade him to an AFC team. So I do think if there is a deal, it would be an NFC team. And that is why I've listed 3 NFC teams here. You look at what the Bears have done. Ben Johnson, they've come in and really revamped the offensive side of the ball. We saw what they've done on the offensive line. They signed some key free agents, made a trade for a key free agent. So they've really ramped things up. Now they just need a little bit of a stronger defense. And I think the Bears know that they need to add some